Welcome, everyone. Today, we will be talking about generating ARM reports. So a general look at how to do reporting in ARM. We'll try to avoid too much statistics or anything, but just talk about the tools, the different reports available, how to save your options, and things like that. We're on a time crunch here, trying our new 30-minute format. So I'll leave all the rest to the screen there, and we will dive in. So I'll switch over here to ARM, and I have a generic trial open. It's just one from our tutorial study list. Pretty much everything today I'll show as it pertains to trial reports, but there are a few protocol reports as well. A lot fewer, but a lot of these general topics I think would apply in either case if you were working on a protocol and wanting to generate a report as well. But by and large, most of everything is done, I think, in a trial. So to get to the reporting function, under the File menu, there is a Print Reports. And that will bring up our dialog here that has quite a few pieces to it. So we'll kind of break this down. Excuse me. So on the left, we have our list of available reports. And as I mentioned, the majority are in a trial, but they are grouped. So we do have the option, and I'll show just real briefly, there are a few protocol reports that are available. They all kind of correspond to a trial report of a very similar name. So we won't spend too much time today on those. The actual content will look very similar to some of these here in the trial. But as you see with the trial, there are a lot more of them as well. So a little bit more to do in the trial as far as reporting goes. And so looking at these this list of reports, there really are kind of two different types of reports, I would say, available in ARM. There's the classic that kind of matches the term reporting, where you want to present the data. So whatever is in your trial that's been entered and documented, I want to present that. I want to summarize it, bring it together, and send it somewhere else, or present it on a report. So that's kind of the classic sense. And there's a report component for pretty much every section of a trial. So anything that you're putting into an ARM file, there's a way to then bring it onto a page, into a report to show. There are other types of reports as well, though I guess for lack of a better term, I would just call them tools that aren't just taking information you've entered and putting them on a page, but actually do something with information in the trial. And they can be handy across the whole trial season, really. And I really like to point those out because I think they could otherwise go a bit unnoticed. It's maybe not the most obvious place to go look for something like that in the reporting section, that it might be easy to just compartmentalize to think, oh, that's the end of the year is the only time I would need that function. But no, there's actually a few things we can do here. So we're gonna work through this list of available reports to point out both categories, I guess. So we'll kind of want to highlight the tools, if you will, in this list first, because they can be used really throughout the season. So just kind of going down the list, what I'm going to do is when you select a report here on the left, you'll notice that the main section here in the lower right corner updates based on the report that you click on. And so we get specific options related to this report on the screen that we can toggle and adjust to the way we want to create our report. In addition to those report options, there's a tab in the middle here called Report Preview. And this will be especially helpful right now because I'd like to show what the report looks like that we're talking about. So I'm going to use that here as just a short on screen. You can see the page heading. All ARM reports have that heading that come from the header section of your trial. And then the actual contents of the report here. And it'll show just one page or a couple of assessment columns or whatever, just a starter here to give you an idea of what it looks like. We'll see later on, we can preview the entirety of the report when we get it all put together towards the end. So this one in particular, the data collection, is a report that you can print out, and you'll notice it just has a lot of blanks for you to jot down your data. So you can fill in whatever header details of describing what assessment you performed, and then there's a spot for your data points for the trial. And in my case, it looks like it runs all the way onto a second page. So this would be handy to, like I said, print out and hand record your notes on a piece of paper. And then you can bring it back in and type in your data into ARM. And as such, there's also then a data verification report that kind of pairs nicely with that data collection. And this data verification tries to have the exact same dimensions, the exact same structure as the data collection. You'll see that with the headers and then the plots. And then it's got the data that was entered in the assessments currently in your trial. So the idea being that you can then print out the data verification sheet after you've recorded your notes, and then on your desk, set this sheet right next to the hand copy that you wrote things down on, and you can compare side by side to make sure that you did not mistype anything when it went into the program. So these two are a little bit of a pair for kind of making sure if you're hand collecting data that things are put in correctly and not mistyped or anything. We also have labels. So moving to this next section, and there's actually a lot of them. So you'll see I'm expanding with that little plus sign on the labels. There are many different kinds of labels that we can generate, and there's different categories, whether you're making labels for containers, kind of pertain to treatments typically, or plot labels. There's also seed packets and harvest labels that you can generate. And you can see on the screen that the pieces of information vary, as do the formatting and how they are on that label. Won't spend a lot of time on that. We do have a separate webinar and some tutorial videos on our website. As kind of a whole other session on how you can work with labels, either the built-in ones or there is also a custom way you can export the information and create your own label in another tool, even like Microsoft Word works to create labels. Moving down this list, there are also signs. Those are just plot signs. So they're basically the same thing as a label, except really huge to fit just one page, one page, to have a sign for each of your plots. The next one here for us is our spray seeding plan. And so this is a big one, especially for beginners. Like I said, it's very important, but I think it's a little bit hidden by being in the print reports. What the spray seeding plan does is, let me zoom in maybe one more time here, prints out our treatment list of all of the different products, their formulation and rates that we've entered in the trial. And most importantly, it calculates the amount of product that we need to measure to make our applications. and has the plots where that particular treatment is at in our trial. Gives us our mix size, our spray volume, really pretty much anything we would need to go out and make our applications for our treatments. In this case, it's even split out by each application code. So depending on which application I'm making, I can have a totally separate table or a totally separate page even for you to have. And then there's total amounts at the bottom of that for how much product in total that you end up needing for this entire trial. So this ends up being multiplied out based on your settings. So that's probably, I would say, about the number one tool, just trial-wise, operating the trial that you'd want to make sure to use is that spray seeding plan. And there's sub-options here for standard spray and seeding. That just makes an attempt to filter which treatments are actually on your report. So, seeding, you'll see it'll give me a warning that it didn't see any variety treatment types in my list. So it would otherwise filter and only show me those types of treatments. In my case, that's not the type of study I have open, so I didn't find anything to use in that list. But standard will always just bring all of them, which is the easiest anyway. Right, moving down the list, tour report, pretty similar to the spray seeding plan in its construct. We've got our list of treatments. It also gives those plot numbers of where that treatment is at, and then there's just an open section for notes. So it might be handy to, again, print out, and then you have a spot as someone tours the trial, just to make general notes or comments, something to write down, while also having the information they would need to take that tour, if you will. And then last but not least, for the tools, this one's a little bit of both, perhaps, the trial map. So this prints an image. Actually, I'll zoom out a little bit. This prints an image of the trial map onto a report with your treatment descriptions as well. And the handy thing with that in your report options is you can leverage any of the different view options within the trial map. Whatever you change on your trial map, the last way you have viewed the coloring, or you can do the true scale to make the map look the way you want. That is how the image will show up then on your report. I'll zoom out a little more just so you can see that. So that might be a little bit of both. It is showing the randomization of the trial, but might be handy as well to have that map available of what is out there. So those are the functions, the tools that are somewhat hidden here in the available reports. And if I wanted to use one, let's just say we want that trial map. So far, I've only been clicking on them in the available reports, but when we create a report, we actually can choose multiple components from this list if we would like, and collate them together into a full report that we generate. So when I have that map selected, then at the top here, I can add that trial map report to what we call our report set. This would be a list of the different components that I want to have. So maybe I have my trial map and my spray seeding plan. I would want to have on the very next page. I can kind of create this list of reports, components, if you will, that will be combined together into one large document as our report when we finish this process. Real quick, one more pass through that available reports for our presentation of data type of reports. pretty much will match the sections, the editors of ARM will be the name of the report that prints things out. So assessment footnotes, if you use footnotes within the assessment editor, that's how you can print those out on a report. There's the schedule, so that would show the schedule tasks editor. Any tasks that you have filled out would be in that report. Let me show on the preview. I'm not sure if I have any. Yep, no schedule tasks here, so a little bit boring. The site description, that is a big one here. And that will show each of the different tabs of that site description. So, you have the contacts, the crop description, the pest description, site design, all of those different sections can be printed out on a report. Now, there's a few different ways to do that. So that was the standard form, where anything that has been filled in is included on the report unless you've hidden it from your view. And then any other field that is empty that you did not fill in is not on the report. So you'll notice this is nice and concise compared to the main screen when there's dozens of data entry fields on the screen. You can print a blank form, and so that will print blanks for any field that you didn't fill in. So again, if you needed to print this out and we're going to have someone handwrite information, this would create a form essentially to type things in. So anything that's not filled in is then a blank to type in. Then there's also a custom form where you can kind of choose whether there's blanks or not and things like that. And you can also do selected sections. Either in this option here, or there's a selected tabs. And when you click on that plus sign, it will ask you which sections you want to include. So if you didn't want to include certain sections, or if you wanted to change the order around, things like that, you can do that. So maybe I first want to start just with the general trial and contacts. I can do that. And when I select that, then there is in the report set, just sections 1 and 4 will be printed. So just the general trial and then contacts, and then that's all. Unless I can then add another set and I could choose different ones. So then maybe I want to have my SE definitions and weather, or whatever I choose. That'll kind of build up that list. So that's how to print out the site description in a variety of different ways. There's study rules. That will be the table of study rules in your trial. I don't have any, so not much to print out there. There's also trial treatments. So that would just be your treatment table in there as well. And then last but not least would be our summary section. And we've kind of split those out as a particular group. These all revolve around the assessment data that we have. The assessment data summary prints out every data column that you have sorted by treatment. And not much for analysis, there's just a mean. So just the treatment means, but really no statistics at all on the reports, just a simple printout of all of the data collected. The AOV means table is kind of the flagship analysis that we spend a lot of time on in the data portion of our webinars. That's got your treatment means, your mean separations, all the statistics and things like that for each data column. The factorial AOV table is for multi-factor designs. It would be basically what the AOV means table is, but for factorials. And then there's some other analyses that the ARM can run, repeated measures, dose response, things like that are in that summary section. So let's add the assessment data summary as well to our list. There's a little symbol here that just shows it's a summary report. Just one reason why that is somewhat of a distinction, you'll see in the report options, there is a general summary tab that appears. So now these options apply to kind of all of those summary reports. No matter which ones, I could have one or more than one on my report set to include, and these options really will apply to all of those reports. There is a button here at the bottom for more options. And so let's just click on our assessment data summary. We kind of have our main option list here. There's also those general summary. But if I want to see all of the options that go into generating the assessment data summary report, I can click on that button. And you'll see I've got assessment data summary and that general summary, but there's some other tabs as well. So just depending on the report, there's pre-mix ingredient. That's because we have treatment information as part of the report. I can choose which treatment fields that are going to be printed. And then there's also this section called global options. So these will apply. There's general, there's a page heading, borders, and the footer. And so these options affect all of the reports. So every single one that we're going to print out here are affected by these options. So that's why we call them global. They apply to all of the reports that I'm going to create. And those can also be accessed with this button here, Global Report Settings. And it'll show just the ones that are global. You can customize the heading, what kind of components are on the heading. That's probably incredibly small. What components, the date, the trial name, what components are where on that very top heading of the page. So we have built up this report set of all these different components. If we want to see them all together, we can click Next, and it's going to generate each one of those reports. Depending on the options in our reports, there may be questions, things to select. This is part of the spray seeding plan. I'll just take the defaults. Some messages about AOV, not too worried about. Then we'll finally land on this print dialog. And there's a few different options to control how the pages are put together, numbering, things like that. There's a button here to preview. And this is where we get to see everything put together on our pages here. So it started with the trial map, which my options made it very large, so it extends onto a second page. So there's our trial map. Then the third page starts with that next report component that I chose, which was the spray seeding plan. Then it moves on to my site description that I chose, and it'll just kind of keeps going together. There's the assessment data summary. I did have the option to remove page breaks, so I should have turned that off to start with. Just real quick, by default, at the end of each report, so here page 3 is the spray seeding plan. It is somewhat small because we have just application A, then it has a separate page for application B, and so on. Then at the end of that report, there's a page break, so that way the next report component on the next page, page 6, is the site description, and that starts on its own new page. If you want to kind of compact things, and that's how it was originally, you saw, I think we had fewer than 12 pages then, things can compact together if we'd like, and that was this option here to remove the page break. When there's at least 20%, this is that percentage there, when there's at least like 20% on the page, it can kind of combine things together so that way you can use fewer pages if you'd like. So printing will send this report to your printer, whatever printer that you have connected to your computer. But you can also create a document from this report, either to Excel, a Word document, or a PDF. And real quickly, just to explain the three of them and which ones you may want to use, an Excel spreadsheet, you really aren't going to get any of the spacing and formatting the way it looks in the preview, just because obviously all the information is forced into columns and rows in a grid, so it doesn't look the same by any stretch. But it can be useful if the information on the report you want to use in graphing or other calculations. The Word document, that's pretty handy if you need to make further edits or you're going to combine that document with other documents. It's pretty easy to do that within Word. The formatting is usually pretty close to what you see on the preview, but it doesn't always fit exactly, just the way Word takes some of those components and puts it into a document. Sometimes things are just a little bit off compared to what you saw in the preview in ARM. The third option would be to send to PDF. The little bit less probably editing options unless you have an Adobe product that does a lot of processing of PDFs, but it definitely is the best match. Pretty much always exactly matches what you previewed in ARM. What you see there, if you send it to PDF, you're going to get basically the exact same thing back if you generate a PDF. All right, we're low on time, but I do want one more topic here. I'm going to hit previous. So we've created that report. We're maybe happy about the way it came out. What we can do is then save this report set, is what we call it, where we want to capture all of the options and configurations that we chose to generate this report. We can save those all to a file. That way, next week when I come to another trial and I need to make a report, I can make sure I have the exact same options. Or if I have a colleague who said, wow, that's a really nice report, I'm struggling, I can't make my ARM do that. I could send that set to them and they can have the exact same options and generate the same looking report for a different trial. So over here under available sets, we have the ability to save a set. So again, we are going to capture the selection of which report components and all of the options that went into making those reports. So I can give this a name. It's going to save it onto my computer. This is maybe what I'm just going to say, summarize my trial, whatever you've got for basically just reminding yourself or someone else what you were doing is really what I recommend for the file name. The name itself doesn't matter to ARM much. It matters to the person who needs to pick it later on. So I save that file to my computer. I do have a longer description if I need it. We've got long enough file names. I think that usually a file name works just fine. And so that created a file. And it's actually in my list of available sets here. So that remembers all of those selections here that I did. And you can see I've done this before. So if I click on one of these sets, it immediately loads the report configuration as I had it at that time. Or if I wanted to clear and start all over, I can clear set, and that gets rid of everything that I had chosen. And all I have to do is come back here to my set list in this available sets and load that summarize my trial, and I'm right back to where I was before. There's also a previous set. So if you're thinking, wow, that's awesome, I wish I had known this earlier, real quick, every time you generate a report, if you didn't give it a name already, ARM actually has been saving a report set for you. So you could go back and say, yeah, a month ago, I was making those awesome reports. They looked so great. I wish I remembered to save a set. Well, you can go back in time and load that. Maybe this was the one. It was on the 27th. I can click on that and it will load that report that you generated, not the report itself, but all of the options. So that way you can pick up right where you left off before, and maybe this time save it and give it a name. So that's the previous sets there, and it goes back for as long as you've been using ARM on this computer. For me, I've got them back to 2021. They keep going. So hopefully a kickstart. If you wished you had remembered what you had did, or this in the spring. Oh yeah, I only do this once a year. That type of thing. It can help you roll back. All right, well, I'm on the time. Went rapid fire through those topics. If you have any questions as you're trying to generate a report, looking for an option, feel free to let us know. There's a question real quick, just in my list. I do have a lot of weird ones that are in here. Data transfer, it must just be a set I've received. Sometimes I receive sets from people looking for help. A lot of times if this report isn't the way I'd like it, or how can I fix this? There's some weird error. A lot of times we have you send your trial and your report set, all of those options, so that way I can duplicate the same thing that you're seeing on your computer. And then we can see the error happen, we can trace down the problem, and I'm assuming this one here, that data transfer, that was likely somebody that was helping with, I just needed their options, and that was the name of their set. So you most likely don't have that in your list. There are a few defaults. There's a few container sets by default, protocol defaults, protocol summary. Those probably are on your computer, trial defaults, trial summary. So some of those might be ones that you have on your computer, and the rest are just kind of oddball ones that I accumulate over time. But definitely, create your own with what you might want to generate. Okay, great question. As I said, if you have other questions, don't be afraid to send us an email, and we can help you with how you want to create reports. So thanks, everybody. Hopefully we'll be seeing you at a future webinar soon.
Yes, thank you.